Hello, fellow nerds. I'm Taylor.
I'm Sean.
And today we're going to be talking about ScreenX, which is a revolutionary new viewing experience that we just watched, and we're actually still in the theater right now, so we thought we'd do a quick review of the format and talk a little bit about the movie that we saw.
Video.
Taylor, tell me about the format. What is ScreenX?
Well, ScreenX is essentially a 270-degree viewing experience where they project images on the sides of the theater as well as the screen itself. So it really gives more of a peripheral kind of viewing experience, which is really interesting and something that we were really looking forward to going in. So it was pretty interesting doing it. So Sean,
it's like essentially like you just said, it's like peripheral. So you see it surrounds you in the theater. It's basically everything besides the back wall and the little corners, but like has a bomb sound system. It's really fucking cool. This is my first time. This is both of our first times at a ScreenX experience. And the movie we got to see was Kingsman, The Golden Circle. It was, again, the formatting is very interesting and a lot of fun at times. I don't know that this movie is the best example of the format.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if you guys are familiar with Kingsman, I'm assuming the filmmaking style of the action scenes, very frenetic.
Yes.
It's really, really cool in the first movie, and it's also arguably really cool in this movie.
It is. It's very dynamic just on its own without the whole ScreenX experience.
Absolutely. And I found myself kind of trying to avoid the ScreenX experience during those action sequences. Like, they were literally kind of rather just tunnel in on what was the real screen. Which is what you're kind of supposed to do. You're not really. Taylor was explaining to me after the movie. I was saying, I was looking around a lot, and like you're not really supposed to. Like,
yeah, well, I was doing the same thing at first too. I was watching the sides of the screen more than I was watching the main screen, just because I was kind of getting a feel for how that was working and what they were presenting, and indeed how it was trying to work. And at a certain point, I basically just gave in.
Exactly.
And just started focusing on that and letting the peripheral experience happen without like focusing on that. And I think that really helped. But I do agree with you. I think watching the kinetic nature of this movie in a format like ScreenX is very, very, I don't want to say difficult, because it wasn't difficult. It's just very unusual, you know what I mean? And it takes you a minute to get used to it because it's something that you've never seen before, at least something that I've never seen.
Well, and this movie opens with a big action sequence like that.
So right off the bat. I mean, 2 minutes in, you're in a huge action sequence. So it was very disorienting at first, trying to get used to that crazy filmmaking style while also adapting to the side walls.
No, absolutely. And I think like you were saying, once you kind of just sat back and enjoyed the ride, because at first your senses are on overload, kind of. Like, it's very theme parkish. Like,
it is, yeah.
More than like, it's not like there's moving seats in this one. It's not like the 4D situation as much. This is more of the, again, it's the way you feel like you're moving.
Yeah. And and I totally agree. I think it's interesting though, because it's this very revolutionary format, and viewing it, especially watching this movie, it feels like it still needs a little bit of polish. I mean, at the beginning of the experience, before the movie starts, they actually have like a little quote-unquote demo of ScreenX that was shot
badass
and presented in the way that it was meant to be shot. You have to remember that Kingsman wasn't made with this format in mind, so they essentially have to adapt it. Much like movies that aren't shot in IMAX, that are presented in IMAX, they'll convert it essentially.
This one feels like an afterthought.
Exactly, and even with the intro video itself, the sort of presentation, one of the major things off the bat right away that seemed very, not to say that it was unpolished, but seemed very weird, was the fact that the screens, the corners of where they sort of bleed into one another. I don't know if you noticed this, but they overlapped. So like an image would be coming onto the front screen, and it would go off the second screen, but then it would, essentially there was like a little bit of extra space that kind of made it go like this as opposed to go like this.
Well, I was walking out and immediately thinking, like, wait, are they just extending the side, like in something like Kingsman where they didn't film with this idea in mind? Like, so are they just taking the footage that's off to the sides and then wrapping it around you?
That's originally sort of like what I was analyzing. I'm like, how the fuck are they doing this?
I spent the first couple minutes like trying to think about that.
Yeah, and then at a certain point you just have to say fuck it, and I have to enjoy the movie. So it was something that was really fun. I think they were. They also mentioned that they were showing it in this previously before Kingsman.
I
think this format is going to be really good for specific movies like that, where it's all about claustrophobia and like sort of enclosing the audience in that world. I don't think Kingsman is the right movie to see in this format.
Environments like large, like it doesn't even have to be wide shots, and I know that's kind of what I'm sounding like, but the idea that like every scene in Kingsman that was really cool with this format wasn't the action scenes really. It was the scenes that was expanding like
it was basically like you said, the environments.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene in Kingsman, and this could be maybe seen as a minor spoiler, but it's in the trailers where they're in like sort of a snow environment.
Yeah.
They're on a big mountain, and there's a big old action scene that happened, and we both agreed after talking after seeing the movie that was one of the best. That was one of the most impressive. Or it was the most impressive use
of
the format in the movie for the action scenes. Something else that we found really interesting though too was that it actually doesn't stay. The side walls actually don't come into play except for maybe the action scenes. So again, it's in that respect it's very similar to IMAX where it'll show up and then for the action scene or a small moment and then it'll go away and the sort of walls turn dark again.
For that, like that's where again it goes back to saying it felt like kind of unpolished because, or like an afterthought because there was specific times where it like crept up on the sides of the walls, like meaning like they put thought into fading it in. There were other times where it was just hard cuts to it, and like that can work. I'm not saying you have to always fade it in and fade it out, but it was. You could tell they were just like trying to figure out like where to add it and test some because like there's really no rhyme or reason in this movie.
I mean there's certain moments like if you've seen the first film, when they put on the glasses, they have like sort of holographic images and it sort of acts as like a
heads up display.
Exactly,
that's pretty
heads up
cool.
display.
Like,
and they use that in the ScreenX format where when they put the glasses on, the sides of the walls will actually display additional information like as they would be seeing it. So that was really cool, but at the same time, again, it goes back to that idea where a character puts on glasses for 5 seconds, they show the POV of it, and then they cut away, and by the time they cut away, the screen instantly goes dark again.
Instant.
So it's very jarring at points, but also very cool. So it's this weird mix of really liking it and also, realizing that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out with it. And I think, to be honest, once actually somebody shoots in this format,
it's going to be the most interesting idea.
It's going to take off.
And
you know what I mean?
It'll be a while. I assume that'll be a while, but like even for now, while they're adapting movies into this format, I have a lot of hope. I'm not going to come and see every movie in this format, but I will be.
But it's a special experience if you can see if you know which type of movies will work well in this.
Do you think Blade Runner 2020?
I think Blade Runner would be an excellent example.
I think it's going to look really cool.
Especially because that movie is all about the world and the environment and the atmosphere.
Not as even the action scenes
and you're not cutting every 2 seconds too. You know. So that's the other thing. But yeah, I mean, I think if you pick and choose movies in this format, it is very effective.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I would, for just first time going, definitely recommend checking out ScreenX. It's very cool.
And it's actually cheaper than IMAX. I think it was like $15 or $16 a ticket is what they charge for this. So it's actually not that bad.
For premium formatting, it's really not.
Exactly.
It is a full experience.
And what's really cool about this is, there's only 3 theaters in the nation that have this format right now. There's one in Orange County, which is the one we went to in Buena Park. They have one in Koreatown, and they have one that just went up in Las Vegas. So if you're in LA or Orange County, Southern California, and you have a chance to check this format out, I think it would be worth your while to do so.
I agree.
Yeah. Cool. So that's going to wrap us up. Let us know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. If you guys have seen ScreenX and you want to give us feedback, did you like it? Did you not like it?
Or if you've seen other movies, recommend something different format. Like I said, this is our first time.
Let us know what's going on in your guys' heads. But with that said, you can find everything else we're doing at ageofthenerd.com. Yeah. And we will see you next time.